Joanne, is it you can't eat your cake and have it, or you can't have your cake and eat it?
Oh, Peter, Peter, Peter.
Peter Sidney Ernest Lawford was an English-American actor, producer, and socialite. He lived most of his adult life in the U.S. He grew up in an affluent family, became a Hollywood star, and was member of the Rat Pack with Frank Sinatra. He also married a Kennedy. He lived a sad life in his later years and died in 1984. Friends, I posted this video as a tribute to Mr. Peter Lawford. So come take a ride with me. Lawford was born Peter Sidney Ernest Allen on September 7, 1923 in London, England. His parents were married to different people at the time of his birth. His father was connected to royalty. Lawford grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Although he had no formal education, he was homeschooled by his mother through private tutors. And his early years was spent living in France, and he spoke French before he learned English. He was taught Spanish, German, music, and the dramatic arts. When he was 14 years old, he had an accident that cut his right arm very badly. Consequently, he suffered from nerve damage and never regained full use of his right arm and hand. Thus, he was turned down as unfit for military service and did not serve during World War II. Peter already had some experience in the showbiz industry, having appeared as a child actor in a couple of films. He and his parents loved to travel, and the reason he lived in the U.S. for good is that got stranded in Florida at the outbreak of World War II. Their assets were frozen, so he took jobs, and when he saved enough money, he went to Hollywood to pursue his career. Peter got some bit parts in a couple of films, some were uncredited, and finally he had a break when he signed a contract with MGM. Lawford's first leading role was in Son of Lassie in 1945, which is a big hit. And the rest was history. He also appeared in television in the 1950s. In 1954, he married Patricia Kennedy, sister of Senator John F. Kennedy. Peter Lawford and Frank Sinatra already knew each other and even struck up a friendship while starring in a musical comedy, It Happened in Brooklyn, in the late 1940s. Frank Sinatra got him a role in Never So Few in 1959, and he was invited to the Rat Pack and even starred in the film Ocean's 11. The Rat Pack was an informal group of entertainers. They started as a group of A-list showbiz friends who met casually at the Los Angeles home of Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall in the 1960s. The group featured Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford. The Rat Pack played a role in campaigning for Kennedy, and they even appeared in the 1960 Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles. John F. Kennedy was so grateful for the Rat Pack's help in getting him elected, he assigned Sinatra and Lawford to produce his inaugural balls. Soon, John F. Kennedy had been planning a trip to Palm Springs, and Lawford raised the idea if Kennedy can stay over his Palm Springs house. Sinatra went to great lengths renovating his home to accommodate the president. He spent a huge amount of money to turn his compound into a mini White House that includes a flagpole and a helipad. But one day, the Attorney General Robert Kennedy instructs Lawford to tell Sinatra the Secret Service wants the president to stay at Bing Crosby's vacant home because it has better security, and this puts Lawford in a very bad position. The reason is Robert F. Kennedy advised his brother to sever ties to Sinatra because of his association with the mafia. Kennedy canceled the visit. As Kennedy stayed at Bing Crosby's estate, this further infuriated Sinatra. It is said Sinatra threw a fit and destroyed the helipad, and Peter Lawford was banished from the Rat Pack. Sinatra blamed Peter Lawford for it, and he never spoke to him after that. He was canceled in Hollywood. He was taken off from the film 4 for Texas, and his part to Robin and the Seven Hoods was given to Bing Crosby. In later years, Peter Lawford decides to attend Sinatra's Las Vegas concert, and when Sinatra found out about it, he refused to go out until Lawford was escorted out. He made the news again when he hand-delivered Marilyn Monroe to Madison Square Garden to sing Happy Birthday to the President.
Mr. President, the late Marilyn Monroe.
Happy birthday.
And Peter Lawford was also the last person that Marilyn Monroe spoke to before she died. In 1966, his wife Pat Lawford divorced him because of his alcoholism and philandering ways. She never remarried. Peter Lawford was shunned by Sinatra and the Kennedys, but he remained close friends with Sammy Davis Jr., and they even made 2 films together. Peter Lawford was married 4 times. In the 1970s, he never ran out of work and made a couple of films and commercials. His last movie was Where is Parsifal in 1983. Lawford died at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles on Christmas Eve 1984 at age 61 from cardiac arrest. He had suffered from kidney and liver failure after years of substance abuse. His body was cremated and his ashes were interred at Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery. Owing to a dispute with his widow and the cemetery, Lawford's ashes were removed from the cemetery in 1988 and scattered into the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California by his widow, Patricia Seaton Lawford. For his contribution to the television industry, Peter Lawford has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame located at Hollywood Boulevard. And that's the life of the great Peter Lawford. Rest in peace.
Hello, I'm Peter Lawford.